Going to go ahead. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started with our illustrious panelists. I am honored to moderate this panel as a Jones, talking about keeping up with the Joneses, our financial workshop. Old Dominion University Black Alumni Chapter. And so to begin with our introductions, we first have Mr. Juan Johnson Jr. He is the founder and CEO of the Cornerstone LLC. Juan has over 10 years in accounting experience, ranging from nonprofit, small business bookkeeping, church accounting, as well as real estate. He graduated from Old Dominion University with a Bachelor of Science in both accounting and real estate. Juan's passion is to help individuals and businesses build a strong financial foundation. He desires to see people living debt-free and living wealthy while leaving an inheritance to their children. Juan's goals is to change the financial structure of the world by imparting wisdom on financial literacy. Partner with him today and take this journey towards financial freedom. Welcome, Mr. Johnson Jr. All righty, next on our illustrious panel, Danica Royster. Ms. Danica Royster is a wealth consultant at First Genesis of Virginia, LLC, a family-owned and Black-owned financial planning firm based in Norfolk, Virginia. She graduated from Old Dominion University in 2012 with a bachelor degree in business management. She is well-trained in financial services and is focused on building her practice using a holistic approach when assisting clients in pursuing their financial goals and objectives. She specifically focuses her practice on retirement planning, wealth accumulation strategies, educational funding for college, and asset protection planning. She has tailored her practice to assisting young professionals in establishing a solid financial foundation and educating them regarding financial opportunities to create generational wealth. Danica has a passion for enhancing financial literacy and implementation in the African-American community, and hopes to continue to partner with various organizations to empower her generation in Hampton Roads and beyond. Danica was appointed to Norfolk City Council on January 13th, 2021, and elected to City Council on November 2nd, 2021, to represent the citizens of Super Ward 7. She currently lives on the Hampton Road. She currently serves on the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and co-chairs the Mayor's Advisory Committee for the St. Paul's area and the Mayor's Commission on Social Equity and Economic Opportunity. In 2019, Ms. Royster was recognized as a millennial on the move by CovaBiz for exemplifying success in her profession while also working with the community to advance the entire region. She was recently recognized as part of Old Dominion University Alumni Association's inaugural Top 40 Under 40 class. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Mr. Jones, on Keeping Up with the Joneses, Mr. Akeem Jones is the owner and chief financial advisor at the Solutions Group Global LLC. Akeem is an experienced certified public accountant, CPA, certified government financial manager, CGFM, certified defense financial manager, CDFM, and Amazon's best-selling author. A longtime resident of Hampton Roads, Akeem attained his bachelor's degree in accounting at Old Dominion University and a master's degree in accounting from Liberty University. With over 10 years of professional accounting, audit, and tax experience, Akeem has managed billions of dollars in government funding while helping hundreds of small businesses and personal tax clients strengthen their financial position. The Solutions Group Global LLC is a financial education company based in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and our mission is to spread the word of economic empowerment and financial literacy to many people that wouldn't receive this vital information otherwise. We achieve our mission through publishing books, online courses, financial apparel, pro bono, and paid speaking engagements, free social media content, and an array of small business and personal tax clients. Welcome to this awesome panel. We are in for a treat tonight. Yes, yes, yes. All righty. So feel free to enter your questions in the chat. I and Noelle, our illustrious chapter president, has created some questions, but feel free to chime in the chat, and then Noelle will keep me on task with questions. But I want to first start with Mr. Johnson. First question is for you. I just would like for you to share your testimony and your story with us about how you left the state of Virginia by faith and moved to the state of Texas. And from this act of faith, you experienced professional and financial success on another level. So share with us your story and your testimony, please.
So last year during the pandemic on April Fool's Day, the company that I worked for 9.5 years told me that they were shutting down the real estate, the property management side, and they were giving up their entire portfolio over to another company. So imagine 250 employees on that day realizing that they won't have a job and they don't know the timeline. So because I had a team of 6 people under me, I didn't have the time to really process it because I'm helping everybody else. But a few weeks in, I was like, what do I do? I was actually the last employee to be let go. So my last day was in October. I had 6 months of wondering what is next, what is next, what is next. And in October, God told me to go. And I was like, what does that mean? So you go like Abraham to a land that I'm gonna show you. So I got on the plane. I got on the plane to Dallas, Texas. And when I landed, I knew I was supposed to be here. Fast forward a little bit, I sold my house. God blew on that. I only had it for a year. I got about $70,000 extra than what I paid for it. That's how I know God was in it. I literally got on the plane with a carry-on and a check-in bag. I had 2 pillows, some washcloths and towels for 3 days, and a blow-up mattress. And I applied for an apartment the same day. And when I landed, they approved me with no job. That's how I know God had wanted me to move to Texas. And since then, the same job that I worked for in Virginia called me back. I'm paying more, working less hours, and I've gotten maybe 7 to 8 other small businesses that I've been working with in the last 3 to 4 months. So when you literally step out on faith or get pushed out from me, and actually do what God has purposed you to do, He makes a way out of no way. So I'm just living by faith day by day.
Thank you for sharing your awesome testimony with us. We are just we're so inspired by that. We really are. We really are.
Amen. Amen, brother.
Okay, Ms. Royster. I noticed, in your bio that you emphasize the fact that your LLC, your wealth consultant business, is both family owned and Black owned. Of course, being an African-American queen that you are, we're all kings and queens here on this panel and this audience. Is this model one that you encourage and envision as one of the building blocks for attaining Black wealth?
Yes. So one of the things I'll just say yes. There's so much power in legacy. And honestly, I just have to speak from that. Having the opportunity to have mentorship and go into a job every day, working with people who love me and we love our community and our foundation is our people. It's lit. Like I told someone the other day, it's just, there's no better feeling because, to Juan's story, listening and hearing, there's no way I'm going to work tomorrow. My dad's about to be like, hey, by the way, selling the business, go figure it out. It's like, that's not going to happen. So there is power in ownership and there's power in a legacy. And particularly for our community, that's something that, were some of our foundational things when we, even dating back for centuries, when, we got into entrepreneurship was a lot of what we had to do because our white counterparts would not hire us. So we created businesses for ourselves. We created, we had blacksmiths, doctors, attorneys, etc., all these things. So I do think that it's a way of building wealth, but also it's a great way of transferring wealth and continuing to grow a community. Some background, my father's been in the business for 35, 37 years. 5 years he's out. And one of the beautiful things is his clients, they're kind of in the same bubble and they have kids who they're going to be looking to me like, hey, I want to continue this trend. And to me, it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to be of service to people who look like me. One of the things that we really talk about at my firm is how we're about our culture and we're unapologetically Black. That doesn't mean that we're anti-white, but we're definitely pro-Black because we recognize the value in having us here. Every day, I'm reading some great article about the first Black person to do this. There's, Black women are killing it right now, right? Black men are creating and they're doing these great things. But most people don't know that African Americans only make up 5% of the market as relates to financial advisors. So you got all these people doing bomb things who look like us and who are looking for people like us. And unfortunately, the pool doesn't exist. But I would like to say that it's not also just me who works at our firm. We've had the opportunity to actually hire other African Americans. And even though they're not our family by blood, they're our family because, we brothers and sisters, Juan took it to church. So we brothers and sisters in Christ over here, right? We see each other. And for me, that is the beautiful thing. And that to me is the vision and the goal of wealth building and community building. We have, we're a people who are capable, of people who have been oppressed, but we are a people who overcome. And it takes people like a Danica, a Juan, and Akeem to be on the other side to receive our brothers and sisters and to not only offer education, but implementation to help grow. So yes, legacy is important. Being Black owned was important to me, and that's not a diss to anyone who has gone to work at a firm or work for someone else. But for me, this was my calling. And this is what I feel compelled to do. And I feel compelled to represent not only my monarch family, but also Black folks in a really real way.
Well said, well said, well said. Mr. Jones, Akeem, speak to how your children's books, and we're gonna plug, hey, you got a reading later on this month with BAC, we love it. But speak to how your children's books on finances and money aligns with the vision of promoting generational wealth, while combating the financial generational curses that have plagued African Americans for far too long. And talk about some easy tips too for us, but just, yes, talk about your children's books and all that. Yes.
Yeah, so I graduated ODU many moons ago with an accounting degree, right? And I always learned accounting from a company perspective, right? My textbooks were all, let's go work for this big company, let's look at these big dollars, but it had nothing to do with personal finance or financial literacy. So I didn't really learn about wealth building, economic empowerment, financial literacy until I was, let's say 23, and didn't get serious about it until I was 25, 26, 27, right? So I'm sitting there and thinking, what if I learned about this stuff when I was 14, 12, 10, 8, instead of 24, right? That would have put me 10, 12, 15 years ahead of where I am now. So I use the books as conversation starters. One of our mottos for our company is starting the conversation. So I use the books as conversation starters to not only teach children, but teach their parents as well. A lot of us didn't learn about money in the household, didn't learn about money in school, didn't learn about money from our friends. Money being in somebody's pockets is taboo. in the Black community, right? So I wanted to foster that relationship between parent and child, to not only teach the child about financial literacy, but also to entice the child to ask the parent, hey, mommy, daddy, what does this mean? What's a piggy bank? What's a savings account? What's a compound interest? How can I get money, right? So the books are to really foster the relationship between parent and child. And when you learn about the things in the home, you have so much of a step ahead of where we usually end up. Most of my peers, we end up in student loan debt, in car debt, and marriage debt, right, and house debt by the time we graduate and are in the workforce for a couple of years. So if you learn about all those things growing up, you start to build that muscle and you start to break those curses early.
Yes, yes, yes. And we are definitely going to dig deeper. We started out just being inspired by the testimonials and talking about the legacies and generational wealth and fighting generational curses. But we are going to continue to just dive deeper because this is some awesome stuff. Mr. Johnson? In your bio, I've read that a component of your professional and life's mission is to assist individuals and businesses in building a strong financial foundation. So share practical steps with the audience, building block steps with our audience concerning this process.
Okay, I'll do two things. Most people have the first thing, your mind. You have to change your mind and how you see money, because if you don't, you can build the greatest budget in the world, but you'll continue to do the same habits that you did all of your life. And typically people have their first experience with money is how they continue to see money throughout their entire life. So you have to change your mindset. You have to start reading books. You have to start immersing yourself in the uncomfortable lane of money. One of the things that I like to teach is four things, four corners of a house when you build it. Count the cost first. I believe in tithing, giving God 10%, and I believe at least 10 to 20% savings to yourself, and then about 70%, 60 to 70% on spending, and then 5% giving. So using those as building blocks to help you kind of make sure that you're putting money aside for each different things. And then within the spending, you really want to make sure that you focus on your needs and not your wants. A lot of people don't know the difference between a need and a want. A need is shelter, clothing, food, and water. Other than that, and you may need a car to get to and from your job. Other than that, a luxury car is not a need, it's a want. A certain purse or getting your hair done twice a week or once every week, that's not a need, it's a want. So budgeting that to make sure that every time that you make a financial decision, the vision that you have for your life in the 10, 20-year range, every decision you make, is it bringing you closer to your vision or is it taking you away from it? And that will help you to determine, like, okay, am I on a day-to-day basis, am I bringing myself closer or further away? So it's right in front of your face every time that you make a transaction, every time you swipe. And I also believe in using cash. Cash is king. I literally used to use envelopes every single day, and that's how I got out of debt. And I put myself on a strict budget for like 2 years, and I paid off all my student loan debt. It was uncomfortable in the beginning, but once you realize that, yes, somebody put Dave Ramsey. I used to be a Dave Ramsey financial teacher and stuff. Yes, use the envelopes. And then on a day-to-day basis, when you realize if I'm going around, all I got is this, and once I spend my cash envelope for gas, for food, for entertainment, whatever, then I don't go dip into my savings. I don't go transfer money back from my savings account. Because I know I used to be the person where I would put $25 out of my paycheck to a savings account, and the same day I would transfer it back because I was going to the bar drinking on Friday. So you got to be realistic about the money that you're putting away. And if you also put it in a savings account where you can't have access, you don't have a debit card, you can't swipe, you don't have any access unless you physically go to the bank. And that was how I literally processed my mind to detox my mind from poverty and spending, because everybody else had it and I didn't.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Ms. Royster. I read in your bio that one of your life and professional callings was assisting others in becoming financially literate. So how do you define financial literacy, or what are the characteristics that speak to a financially literate individual?
I think that's a great question. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead is, and this is my truth, and this is how I feel about it. I feel like in the last 5, maybe more years, the financial literacy, the word has become like a buzzword, right? Everywhere where you turn around, financial literacy, financial literacy, financial literacy. So I'm happy the question is kind of asking, what does that mean? Because you go in different rooms, it can mean different things to different people. And I think that that's something that, we have to really narrow in on when we're having the conversation about literacy. So I'll tell you what I think. When I talk about financial literacy, number one, it's in regards to an individual, understanding your own personal financial situation, because everyone is in different places and finances are not one size fits one size fits all. Different people are in different places in their life. If you're someone where you just starting out of college, you got all that debt that Akeem just mentioned, your financial literacy focus and what you need to learn about your own situation is not equivalent to someone who got scholarships, 529 plan, and just graduated with zero debt and stepped into a family business that's ready to get ran. Their financial literacy is on a whole different level. So I think it's about, number one, you as an individual recognizing where you are financially and what are the things that you have and the things that you aspire for. So things that you may have, for example, if you go to work for someone else, you have a benefit package. Financial literacy, number 101 for you is recognizing and understanding what your employer is offering you. And this is something that I'm constantly talking to clients and new clients about when it's enrollment season. Another to, one of the points that Juan made about your personal financial goals and your own habits. So literacy, there's a portion of it as it relates to, the actual definition of what things are, net worth, liabilities versus assets. Those are definitions. But for me, a financial literate person who is someone who not only understands the language, but they also understand what's before them, and they understand the assignment of what you need to do to continue to grow. Because as has been mentioned by the other panelists, you can read all the books in the world. You can become, superhero Dave Ramsey teacher. But if you're not implementing these things in your own life, it doesn't matter. And ultimately, if you can, I've met several people who tell me, oh, I read all these books, but nothing's changed. And I'm like, well, the thing that needs to change is probably not the book, it's probably the person. And there's a lot of things that you can be doing as it relates to yourself. So understanding your own financial situation, whether that is, the assets that you have, the liabilities that you have, understanding the benefits that are before you through your employer, or if you're self-employed, the literacy work now falls 100% on you as it relates to, as an entrepreneur, what are your financial responsibilities, as well as setting goals and understanding what is going to be required of me to reach those goals. I tell people all the time, there's so much information out there. It's almost information overload everywhere, because everyone's a financial educator, everyone's a financial coach, everyone, has went through a training or something. But also a part of being financial literate is doing your homework. There are certain persons who are on this panel who have done their work as it relates to being labeled as a professional. And I always encourage people to work with a professional. You're not going to go get surgery from your friend who's watched every season of Grey's Anatomy. You're not going to ask your homegirl who binge watched How to Get Away with Murder how you're going to be able to, be some type of trial coming up. You're going to go to a real expert. So unfortunately, in our community, if we take our health serious, we go to a doctor. We take our legal stuff serious, we go to a lawyer. Why would we leave our finances, which is one of our biggest things that we can be impactful with, up to a novice or someone who just wants to try it out? I don't get that. And that's something in our community, and I'm going to be real, we need to stop. Because we want to talk about a divide as it relates to what's happening as it relates to racial wealth gap. Another thing is where are you seeking and who are you seeking to get advice and seek help from? I had something happen a couple years ago when a young woman reached out to me on Instagram because she invested money following some, basically trademark stock tip thing card that she paid for from somebody. And she ended up losing like $10,000. And she sent me a screenshot of something and I told her, did you read the terms and agreement? It literally says in here, the first line, I am not a financial advisor. I am not a CPA. I have not gone to school for any of this. I am literally giving you advice based off of what I think, my personal experience, which by the way, by you clicking the box at the bottom, you're acknowledging you will also not take any legal action against me. Now, had you read that, do you think that that's somebody who you really should be moving forward with? Because I know FINRA, the SEC, all that is coming for me if I mess up and I do anything wrong. And I don't look good in orange or stripes. So I'm not doing that. But us as a people, we have to do better. And also about becoming financially literate is not just our implementation, but also seeking the advice of professionals who are here, who, they've done the work. They are, solid. They, you can get real background checks on them and things of that nature, and they have a track record. So to me, those are all the things that encompass financial literacy. And the biggest part, of course, as I mentioned, the implementation.
Thank you for the real talk. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. Jones, what advice would you share with our audience this evening on navigating in today's world as they contend with inflation, higher gas prices, higher food prices, inflated prices on household goods, et cetera? What advice would you share with our audience in navigating in today's spaces?
Yeah, I think when it comes to inflation, one, you just got to make better decisions, right? Or make different decisions. So I was listening to Bloomberg Radio this week, and there's a trend in America that whole chicken wings are dead, right? A pack of whole chicken wings costs you $25. Folks are transitioning to like skin on chicken thighs. I'm doing it as well. Whole chicken wings is dead for me. I can't afford it, right? I got a house of four. So you got to make some better decisions. As far as gas prices, of course you could drive less, but some of those things you got to eat. One of the things you can do is, if you work for an employer, yesterday's prices are not today's prices, right? You go to your employer, they do your annual review. Your annual review says you're getting a raise of 3%. That ain't it, right? There's a labor shortage out here. There's plenty of opportunity. I need my 7 or 8 to match inflation. And if you don't got it for me, then I got to look for my options, just putting it up front for you. If you're a business owner, yesterday's prices are not today's prices. My haircut don't cost $15 no more, right? It costs a good $25, $30. If I want to go for a 7, it's going to be more than that. So you really got to adjust. You got to adjust your finances. You got to think, when you go to the grocery store, look at the things you're buying and say, is this double the price of what it was before? And is there a substitute now? And then you can also look for inflation hedges. So one of the things we're going to talk about in a little more detail, get those coupons. Don't play yourself. Don't be too proud. There's also inflation hedges. As the cost of products and services go up, so does housing, right? If you owned a home 5 years ago, they're almost guaranteed that you've seen some increased equity. So I know one of the things a lot of people are struggling with right now is, I'm looking for a home and these home prices are just crazy. So if you have a home right now, your home prices is probably crazy as well. So one of the things you can do to combat inflation is sell your inflation hedged home, right, to buy another home. If I now have $70,000 in equity in my home, and the house I want has increased in price, I can sell my home and now I can afford to buy those higher price homes. So in short, I would say you got to make better decisions. Look at what your financial situation was yesterday or last year or 2 years ago before the government printed more than $2 trillion. And you gotta reevaluate, you gotta reassess, and then just go Google inflation hedged assets. And you should be all right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. Johnson, you shared with us, how you became student loan debt free. We applaud you for that. Can you give us some other tidbits? Some other, you talked about your envelopes and everything like that and what have you, and just some other practical tidbits that you want to share with the audience. We're all ears. We're soaking it all in. So other than the envelopes, yes.
I created, and Noel said, you better show it. I don't know how I drew this, but I think I was bored like during Christmas. It's a financial roadmap. And it literally, like, I started with about $24,000 in student loan debt in 2016. And what I did was like $4,000 mile markers, what I call them. So every time I hit a mile marker, I shaded it in, and then what I would do is I would go celebrate. Oftentimes what we do is we trying to pay off debt and we cutting everything down, and then we feel like, well, I'm not having fun, or I'm not really doing anything that I enjoy. So I use my mile markers within my roadmap as my celebration points to keep me motivated to pay off debt. And one of the main things I did was I cut off like everything, like no cable, like I had Netflix or something like that. And that, like, you don't have to be extreme. You can still enjoy yourself, but maybe instead of getting a haircut every week, I went every other week. Instead of instead of going out to eat at a restaurant 2 to 3 to 4 times a week, I was eating out 1 to 2. Because most people, they consume a lot of their cash flow. I guarantee you, if you went through your bank statement today and highlighted every time you swipe for food or the coffee at Starbucks or 7-Eleven every day, you probably have $300 to $400 in extra cash that you can probably throw towards debt today. Another thing that I did was I made sure that I set boundaries with people. Oftentimes when you're on a financial journey, the people around you may not be there. And you have to learn how to say no, or be creative about how you gift people things. Like one Christmas, instead of me spending $300 to $400, $500 on gifts, what I did was I literally created jars, put candy in it, and I wrote love notes to all of my family members. So like for at least 30 days, they could pick a note out of the jar, and that it was something great, like something I loved about them on it to inspire them throughout the year. And it was, I think I spent $50 for like 15 to 20 people instead of 500. And I think sometimes we get so used to give, but you have to take care of you first before you can take care of another person. You have to make sure that your foundation is strong and that you have your house in order, that you have enough money saved for emergencies. So one of the things I did was I set $1,000 away first, and then I focused on paying off debt. And then a lot of times when you pay off the debt, then you get to a point where you have all this extra cash flow. And I got to the point, I was like, now what am I supposed to do with an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month? It literally was like, what is this? And I was hesitant that poverty mindset creeped back in, because then I was like, I was saving instead of enjoying life. And I think that's when you really need a financial planner, because you're out of debt, and to really help you or a financial advisor to ensure that you're investing in the right products, the right services, the right mutual funds, ETFs, all of that great stuff. And you're diversifying your portfolio. You're saving money for a house. You're saving money for repairs on your car. A car repair is not an emergency. You can budget for it. And that was one of the things that helped me during the process. I will put $100 in the envelope every month, or in a separate bank account every month. So then when my car would break down, I wouldn't feel guilty about taking everything, or like stressed or anxious about literally depleting my emergency fund, because I had $1,500 in a separate account specifically for car repairs. If you're a homeowner, do the same thing. And then once you pay that car off, instead of taking that and allocating to something else, keep putting that money in a separate bank account, because you're always going to need a new car, or you're always going to have a car repair. So you have that money set aside for when things happen, because things are going to happen. And a lot of times we don't, we borrow from tomorrow. We swipe our credit cards, we do everything to enjoy right now, but what happens when you don't have enough when tomorrow comes? You have to make sure that you're literally planning for rainy days. So get a vision, work the vision, plan out the vision, and then make sure that you have an accountability partner. A lot of times, and your accountability partner can't be your best friend or the person that's going to be nice with you. You need somebody going to say, why are you spending money like that? I had a guy in my church who was a financial planner for 30 years, and I was actually going to go to a friend's wedding in California. The trip was like $3,000. And he said, Juan, why would you spend $3,000 for 2 to 3 days when you can just spend $250 to $500 on a nice gift and he'll still know that you love him and he'll appreciate that. So that's what I did. And it didn't take away from my relationship with him and his wife, but it also allowed me to continue to stick with my goals. So I didn't become distracted by what I was trying to build for myself.
That is awesome. 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 We're loving this. We're loving this. Ms. Royster. So within your role with the Norfolk City Council, can you speak to how African Americans can engage in a buying back the block model so that we find ourselves as victors within the urban landscape, as opposed to the standard narrative of being the victim of gentrification? Can you speak to that?
I love that question. So quick plug, buy back the block. So there's an opportunity right now to do that within the city of Norfolk. We have something called gym lots throughout the city. There are city-owned properties that they're for sale now. There was a moratorium on them. There's several hundred that are buildable. And then we have some non-buildable lots. We got to get creative about what we're going to do with that. But quick, and I'll put it in the chat, but quick plug, it's those properties, the bidding period will actually begin on May 27th and it closes on June 2nd. And I believe in this first round, we have probably about like maybe 12 to 15 properties listed throughout the city. And the idea is you have to build a house on them. So when we're having conversations about buying back the block and building legacy and building wealth, a lot of persons, either you know or you don't know, is home ownership. That's one, and for most people, that's normally what you learn beyond the money in your bank account. It's home ownership. As Akeem was talking about, your home accumulating equity and utilizing that as, a financial tool as well as a financial asset. So things like that are things that you should be taking advantage of. So that way, specifically, and to be quite honest, most of the majority of these gym lots are in predominantly Black areas of the city. So when we want to have conversations of, preventing gentrification, we have to be the ones who are coming to the table and buying the property. Now, granted, it is an auction process, but what is going to be required of someone in that position is that you have money to bid for. If you are currently in debt, you are not being financially responsible, I am not going to encourage you to go bid on any of that, because it's not just the land you're paying for. You remember, you got to build a house too. And so once you get to a place where you financially have arrived, or you're like Mr. Johnson, whereas, man, I got extra $5,000 a month going on here, this is something that you could take advantage of. It's also not limited to an individual. There's oftentimes people I've met persons where they'll have like investment clubs and things of that nature. And you get together, you could buy a property, and this is an opportunity to either have ownership or also, hey, we built something great and now we sold it and we were able to, benefit off the profits. But that's something that has come before us. But another conversation that we have to, kind of have, since it's a family reunion going on, is the conversation about Nana, Big Mama, whatever you call your grandmother's house. Because I, as a council person, I've gone into communities and people will say, oh, they took her house. No, what happened is someone left someone a house and there was either still debt on it, and whoever they left it to couldn't afford it. So you're right, the bank came and got it. having a conversation about generational wealth. If you did well, but you didn't read the books to your kids that Akeem has, they have no value, they have no desire for literacy. You might have left them something and they say, hey, I've been out back, but now that my, whoever has deceased, I got all this, I'm gonna sell that house because I need the cash. Or you find yourself in a position where, once again, people just lose their homes because of negligence. So we have to have conversations about how also we keep things in our family. And I know particularly in our culture, talking about money has been a taboo, but we have to be the generational curse breakers for that, and have a conversation about, hey, is grandma's house paid off? If not, what is our responsibility? Are we going to have this conversation as it relates to the cousins, the aunts and uncles? Because it needs to happen. I also have conversations with clients about uncomfortable but necessary conversations. And one of the things is assets. No one likes to talk about it because no one wants to talk about death. But guess what? I've seen it on too many occasions. Someone passes away and there were problems with it. So it's not even just, gentrification is just this thing that just happens to us. There's no way someone just comes in. I know in Norfolk, we don't have any more eminent domain and someone just takes your house from out of you. You have to have conversations, as well as with a property, something like this, what are your plans for it? Do you going to use it as a rental property? Is it going to be, hey, this is something I'm gifting or whatever? And also make sure we're doing our legal homework as well, because a lot of people don't understand that also. You can't just be giving away a house. I know Akeem probably can speak to this, and probably Juan, as it relates to gifting taxes and limits. So you can't just be passing off a house to somebody and not taking the financial, and not being prepared for the financial repercussions. So doing things like that are important. Ownership within our own communities, but what that takes is literacy implementation and being in a place yourself. If I'm not in a position to buy or to continue to have, I cannot get mad at somebody who did what they were supposed to do and took advantage of an opportunity that I could have. It literally is, self accountability, because certain things, they're not just happening to you. What role did you play? And, you're the one who went to happy hour. No one made you go. You decided that you were going to move the money from your checking to your savings, from your savings to your checking. I'm going to pay myself back next month. Oh, I got myself back the next month. I'm probably not talking about none of y'all. I'm probably talking about some other cousins at another university. But I'm just saying, we have to be accountable. So when opportunities like this come around, I'm doing what I can on the city side to do it legally with doing sheltered bids within a community. So that way the people who live there could have first dibs on the lot right beside them. Having sheltered bids for minority developers and contractors, so that people who look like us, who build houses, have the first opportunity. I can build this and I could sell it. And this is a way now for my business that I've been able to grow. So if I do what I'm supposed to do, I just need to know that on the other side of the deal, there are people who look like me, who have the money that they need and can be able to do this. Yeah, Berkeley is on the map, Akeem. So what I'll do is I'll definitely drop the link to the current auction listing. We're using a website called GovDeals right now, and all the information's there. So I'll put all that there. So I hope I answered your question thoroughly.
Yes, this has been awesome. And this is a perfect lead in to the question from Mr. Jones. We saw that you recently closed on a new property. And so what role do you envision real estate having regarding wealth building in the African-American community? Because I saw when Ms. Royster was flowing, then, you were just, getting, so what role do you see real estate having in wealth building within our community among our people?
Yeah, Danica, if you could get me a shelter bid from Berkeley, please. I just take my money, all of it. But yeah, so real estate, 2/3 of American wealth are in real estate. So I always say, imagine the difference between Susie, who just graduated college, and her parents bought a property in California for $50,000 in 1940. That $50,000 house is now worth $600,000, right? Same for our area. A house in 1940, 1950, 1960 was a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what it is today. So the policies and the redlining and the lack of access to mortgages and housing and not being able to live in certain neighborhoods is a reason why Africans in America have a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the wealth, right? So real estate is just such a big wealth builder in the society we live in. And I'll try to give a quick example of why I think real estate is one of the best, if not the best, investment vehicle. So when you invest in real estate, you benefit in four major ways that I think: leverage, tax benefits, and this is, I'm specifically talking about long-term rental real estate. Leverage, tax benefits, debt pay down, and appreciation. All right, so tax benefits. If you buy a home, rent it out, and your tenant pays you $10,000, $12,000 throughout the year, the government allows you to take depreciation for the wear and tear of your home. Let's say you have a $200,000 house. They say, take that $200,000, divide it by 27, and that's the amount you get for a depreciation expense every year. You don't pay any money for depreciation. You just get it as an expense. Long story short, you rarely pay taxes on rental income. All right, so that's number one, tax benefits. Number two is leverage. Real estate is one of the only assets that you can put a fraction of the cost into the investment. Let me explain it. If you buy $100,000 worth of Apple shares, you're paying $100,000 for those shares. Yes, they may go up, but you're paying $100,000. You buy a $100,000 home, you could put 10% down, and that's on the high end, right? My first property, I put 0% down. Second property, we put 5% down. Then we put 15% down, right? So that's leverage. And let me explain the power of leverage. So if you buy $100,000 worth of Apple shares, that $100,000 goes up to $200,000. What kind of return on that investment is that? It's 100% return on investment. All right. But if I buy a $100,000 property, I put $10,000 down and it appreciates $100,000. My return on investment, because I only put $10,000 into the property, my return on investment isn't 100%, it's 900% now. That's the power of leverage. Appreciation, I think we all know what appreciation is. Real estate goes up over time, average is 2%, but over the last couple of years, if you own a property, it's 10, 15%. And then debt pay down, if you're living somewhere, and I'm assuming we all live somewhere, somebody's paying that mortgage, right? Either you're paying somebody else's mortgage or you're paying your own mortgage. But the thing about having rental real estate is somebody is going to pay your mortgage off, right? You buy a property, you get a $100,000 mortgage, you rent it for 30 years, the duration of that mortgage, and your tenant is going to pay the entire mortgage down, right? So I'll try to put it all together for an example. Our first property we bought for $150,000. We put 0% down. We rented it for about $900 a side. Over the last 4 years, we made about $30,000 in rental income. That's number one. That rental income has never been taxed. We've never paid taxes on that rental income. 20% of that $30,000, let's call that $6,000, right? So that's now the 30,000 plus the 6. It's appreciated about $60,000, and our tenant has paid the mortgage down about $20,000. Right. So you add all that stuff up, and that's an investment you cannot beat. Right. So that's my plug for why real estate is, if not the best, one of the best investment vehicles in the society we live in. And it's why we are so far behind in this wealth gap, because we didn't have access to these opportunities that our cohorts have had for the past, name it, years.
This is so awesome. This is so awesome. Mr. Johnson is just like, wow, like We're
So
all
it's
just,
like what Akeem was saying, because I work on real estate accounting for multifamily. So I see that on a larger scale where they'll buy a $5 million property, they'll hold it for 5 to 10 years. It is appreciated to 15, 20 million. They sell it, and then they have this thing called a 1031 exchange. And if they identify a property within 90 days, they don't have to pay taxes on it if they buy it within the next 90 days. So you got to think they're passing down millions, and they refinance a property, take the millions of dollars out, and then go buy another property. And these are things that they're working in millions, but if you do it on a small scale first and then work your way up to multifamily, maybe it's a duplex, then a triplex, then maybe a 10 unit, then a 40 unit, then a 200 unit. Over time, you have all these doors, and you're going to start being able to make more money, and then you can start investing in other things, other streams of income or passive income, so you're not working the rest of your life. And I think it's good that he explained it like on a smaller scale, because I see it so much that it irritates me when I see companies literally not paying millions of dollars in taxes every year and giving out $150,000 bonuses and $500,000 bonus. And there's people out here that don't even make that in their salary in a year. They only make $50,000. It's crazy, but it happens, and this is why we have to educate ourselves.
yes. And see, this panel is just flowing, because that just flows into the next question. Ms. Royster and any of our other illustrious panelists who want to chime in, talk about some resources, some books, some free resources or books that you all recommend. I know Dave Ramsey's name came up, and we're all familiar with him, and feel free to chime in, but can you speak about, and we remember, Ms. Royster, that we're not just going to read stuff, we're going to actually apply it. So we ain't got time like that just to be reading for no reason now. So yes, like all the panelists, but Ms. Royster can lead. What free resources, books do you all recommend? Because you can go to the library or electronically now. Like there's so many different,
Yeah.
compared to when we were young pups, there's just so many more resources now. So yes, chime in.
So there's a variety. I know Dave Ramsey is a favorite for a lot of people as it relates to debt management. Some other things that I would suggest is I know in the link, I think Akeem put up like, Investopedia. That's a really great resource, not only just for understanding, just definitions, but also even some products that are out there. I also would say, Black Enterprise has some dimes in there and some gems. Sometimes the articles come out and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, did anyone else read this? As well as, what's another online, goodness, I probably should have did my research. I mean, I have some stuff that I just have because it comes to me because unfortunately it's not for consumer use. It's just in my profession. I know you two probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So there are some books that are out there. But another thing that I would say is we're having really, large scale kind of conversations. I know I saw someone earlier say, Akeem put the words in here because I don't know what they mean or something like that. I know it's Keyshawn, he said something silly. But, I would say I'd like to think of myself as a resource as well. I mean, ask a professional. It's always great to read. I'll never take that away from anyone. I actually prefer it when I'm engaging people and they're like, hey, I read up on this and I want to, I don't do pick my brain for free. So I'm just going ahead and put that out there. I'd like to pick your brain and I say, and I'm going to charge you plus interest because I'm worth it. And so is everyone else. Know your worth and add tax and shipping and handling. So ask a professional. That's honestly why we're here. We're here so you do not have to do life alone. And a lot of people, they go further because they have a squad. I'm constantly talking to my clients about who's on your team. If you look at the person who you admire, who do they have in their corner? They have their accountant, they have their financial advisor, they have their attorney. So if you want bigger and you want more for yourself, why would you limit yourself to what your resource could be just being a book? Which I think is great. It's always wonderful to get educated and read. I know a favorite for some people is like Who Moved My Cheese and all those type of things. I think they're great books. They're wonderful to read. But I can tell you right now, a lot of people get the most resource when they're working with someone and they have a really great relationship. During the pandemic, which we're still very much in, transparent moment, It's really still out here. I went 2 years and 4 months and 7 days when was able to escape Auntie Rona, and she caught me 2 weeks ago. And I literally, this is my first meeting that I've had where my face has been shown and I can actually talk. But to my point, so yes, COVID is still here. During the pandemic, my clients found so much value that they could call me, and I was there to coach them and talk to them on the regular about what was going on. Because guess what? You can't go to chapter 5, page 46 and say, hey, in the middle of a pandemic, what am I supposed to do when the market's going crazy? Or, hey, my job is making some really interesting changes. Most people found value in the fact that they could call me. Not most, all the people found value that they could call me, because you can't do life alone. And you'll have some people out there who are rugged individuals and they are, I got this. And there's some people where they do a really great job. But unfortunately, that is not the majority of us. I would say working with an expert, that's always going to be your best source, because you're not going to outread someone who they do this for a living and live and breathe it every day. And especially as tax codes are changing, as investment offerings are shifting, as investment regulations are always changing, you need someone who they stay on that consistently and constantly. And there you have an opportunity to engage and work with them about, remember, your own personal journey, because those books are generic. They're not meant just for you. Some of the stuff is pretty, because I definitely was an envelope person. I did that. So as soon as you were talking about that one, I was like, that was me. And once my money was out, I'd be talking to my friends like, is someone going to pay? Oh, because we got food at home and I got a Total Wine in my kitchen. So I don't need to go spend money nowhere else. But I had to do what was required. And a part of that was also taking my own advice. But that when I was young and dumb. So I made financial mistakes too, which I think made me even better advisor because I could relate. But I would say beyond reading, there's tons of articles, there's great things to listen to, some wonderful podcasts. But I'll never take away the value of actually having a squad and working with someone who lives and breathes this every day.
Awesome, awesome. We're headed down the home stretch of the last half hour of this awesome panel. So I really want to open up the floor, the virtual floor. What do you want to deposit? I mean, you guys have just been, platform. Y'all been awesome. What do you want to deposit into? What do you want to leave? Like what residue? Like I heard something about a mustard friend, like because a mustard friend like leaves a stain, leaves a residue. These are and that's one of the threads and themes that I heard is that like your company you keep, like be with accountability people, be with straight shooters, people who are going to be honest with you, hold you, who really care, who really love you, who really want to see you thrive and have an awesome future. But we're all friends, we're all family. This is our Black reunion, ODU. What do you want to say to your fam? Like, what do you want to leave with your friends? What do you the takeaway? Like, and the floor is open, but we convened on a Wednesday night, had testimonials, had church, straight shooters, just, love. And this is the best. Like, this is one of the best. And I'm not just saying this as a Jones, but this is really one of the best. I've been flowing with ODU BAC for like, I don't know, maybe a couple of years or so, but this has been literally one of the best webinars we put on. But what do you want to leave? What do you want to leave with the fam? What do you want us to go away with? I'll start with Mr. Jones. Keeping up.
So we've all heard of the civil rights movement, right? I think we're the civil rights movement, right? We still gotta work for economic justice, but we live in a capitalistic society. And if you don't know now, it ain't a white thing, it ain't a black thing, it's a green thing. That green overcome a lot of things, right? So we got to, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself and say money ain't important. Don't lie to yourself and say money don't move mountains. And when it comes to budgeting, the number one thing I would say is what you spend on reflects who you are as a person. right? If you say you want to, be the healthiest person in the world, but you got that ABC store and the McDonald's and the Taco Bell and all that, then you ain't the healthiest person in the world, right? If you ain't got that gym membership on there, then that's not your priority, right? So the way you spend reflects your priorities. So if you haven't, and you're trying to get right with your finances, go back and look at the last 3-4 months of what you spent on. And that's who you are. That's your priorities. So one, I would say we're the civil rights movement. We are going to knock down those barriers to being economic players in this world that we live in, the society that we live in. And number two is just keep it real with yourself. And from my perspective, if there's anything I can do to help you out, to help you reach your goals, that is what I want my legacy to be. Like Danica said, I do not work for free. You can finesse me though. You can finesse me. If you see me at a party or something, you like, hey man, I just put an offer on this property, then I'll probably go with you for 30, 45 minutes. So you can finesse me, but if you hop into the DM and you like, let me pick your brain, and you try to set up the call and all that, your DM is going to get answered real slow. But if there's anything I can do to help you and your family out, please let me know. This is my life's work, and all that. So reach out. You got my email. Follow me at the Solutions Group. We try to post every day there. But follow us at the Solutions Group. And yeah, I think that's all I got.
Mr. Johnson, what you want to leave with the fam?
Kind of piggybacking off of King, where your treasures are, your heart is also. And a lot of times your spending habits are a reflection, and money answers all things. And sometimes we have to begin to do the soul work of why we do what we do, or why do we make the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. Because you can have I know people that have 6-figure jobs and they're broke. It does not matter how much money you make if you don't know how to steward the money that you have. So you really have to start doing the inner work to ensure that when God does give the increase, that you can handle it. And especially to the business owners, those who want to start up new businesses, if you're not taking care of your personal household, how do you think you're going to be able to take care of your business household? If you don't know how to read a financial statement for your own, like if you don't know what your own net worth is personally, how do you know what equity, assets, and liabilities is for your business? So understanding that your personal life reflects in every other area of your life. So if you're going to start a business, you better make sure your personal finances are in order as well. The last thing is Rome was not built in a day. And I think sometimes because of society and the pressures, we think that you can get out of debt right away. God does work miracles, and I'm still praying for student loan debt to be canceled for everybody in this administration. And I believe it's going to happen this summer in Jesus' name. Going to touch and agree on that. Like, yes. But to understand, be patient and work. Be patient and pay off debt. Be patient and save. And over time, the president at the last company I used to work for, he said it's the aggregation or the accumulation of aggregate things, meaning small wins over time add up to a lot or amount to a lot. So you don't have to try to throw a lot of cash at things at once. Do little things little bit by little bit, and brick by brick you can build your financial house.
Awesome. Whew. Ms. Royster, anything else before the family?
Before the family go eat. I know, as the pastor says, I know that I'm the only thing between you and a meal. So, wow, honestly, I'm just so honored to be on this panel with my two brothers, because I mean, they laid it out. And I mean, the only thing I can add to that is, accountability. This is all about you and defining what you want, and are you willing to do what's required? Juan, I don't know if you're in my notepad or whatever, but literally some of the things you're saying, I'm like, has he tapped my phone? Like, literally, these are the same things I tell my clients. You have to do what's required for what you want. And also, every time you're swiping that card, every time I'm not picking on any ladies that you got your cart on Amazon or Shein or wherever. No one should feel seen right now. You should have to ask yourself, when I click the terms and agreement or empty cart or purchase, is this getting me closer or further away from my financial goals? Have I done all that's required for my financial checklist of the month before I go spend money on a want versus a need? And in the moment, if you decide to do that, you also have to take responsibility for that. I know we live in a YOLO, you only live once, live for today, because tomorrow you might get hit by a bus. Let me tell you, there's a lot of people who say that and then they wake up and it's 50 years later and they still haven't done what they needed to do. So why put off, today? Why put off till tomorrow what you could be doing today? We have to define and say that I'm going to break this generational curse. If you're a parent, your children are watching. I have gotten to a point where I started telling people I am not doing any more seminars for kids if their parents aren't there, because my 30 minutes to an hour of sewing into them will mean nothing when they go home and their parents are doing completely opposite. I've got several persons and organizations that got upset with me, but I told them, if we're going to be intentional, then let's just be intentional. Let's not just do workshops to check a box off. Let's be real intentional about our audience. And to be honest, the 12 to 15-year-old, you're right, they might stick onto it. They might think that this is great, but the example that they're seeing every single day is what they will follow. And it's the same thing about what we do within our community as it relates to, be careful what you post, be careful what you put out there, but be careful what you promote, because there's other people who are looking to you because you're a leader. We're all leaders. You might not think someone's watching, but people are always watching. When I got on council, the first thing I thought is, oh, nobody's gonna be paying me any attention. No, literally, my whole life is under a microscope at all times. But guess what? That's fine, because I moved from a place of, integrity and authenticity. And I'm always going to be real and honest with Danica. When I'm raggedy, I look in the mirror and say, girl, you were raggedy today. But guess what? It's a new day, which means you get another chance to do better. So one of the things I also want to ask and tell people, extend yourself grace. This is a journey. We also have to recognize in breaking financial curses and generational curses, that there's a lot of things that are within us. A lot of it based in systemic racism that we're trying to fight through. So you might not get it right the first time. You might slip and move that money from your savings to your checking. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. You have to recognize it and understand that, hey, my next move will be a better move. And I learned from that mistake. So extend yourself grace. And then also declare that today is a day that it changes. But don't just declare it and leave it empty. Declare it and start planning. Whether that's taking some of the tips as it relates to, I'm going to become, the envelope queen, king, whatever. Or it's, hey, I'm going to actually read my employer benefit packet. Or, hey, I'm going to give Juan, Danica, or Akeem a call because I need help. You have to declare what that is, but also know that you don't have to do life alone. This is, it's a community thing, and there's resources that are here and available to you. But you also have to say, hey, what do you want for your life? And what do you want your legacy to be? And in closing, what I will tell you is stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, because half the time, people, what you see on the exterior, you do not know what's going on in those people's houses. And I can tell you now, I have met a lot of PhDs, MDs, Esquire, people who drive the nice car. They are gone to every country I wish I could go to on Instagram. But then when I meet them and we're talking for real, they be like, Danica, ooh, I've been keeping up appearances. I've been doing it for the likes because, girl, sleeping on a mattress, not sure, and I'm not playing. I have literally seen these things happen. Or people who are swallowed up in debt and they're literally doing things and it's not for themselves, it's unhealthy. And honestly, you're going through some spiritual warfare too. Because if you're trying to basically impress the world, you need to stop. And that's us. I know this isn't supposed to be that setting, but I'm gonna take it there and be real. And let's be honest with each other. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Keep up with yourself and don't mind what the Joneses do. I tell people, I don't worry about someone else's bag because I'm worried about mine. I can't worry about what's going on somebody else's plate because I don't want my food to get cold. So if you're trying to live for other people, you need to stop and live for yourself and think, what am I doing to change my life and the generations that are going to come after me? So that's my word.
That's your word. That's your word. Well, we're going to have Mr. Jones talk about the book that he is going to read to our audience. We're gonna vibe. We're gonna go off on that positive vibe of just encouraging one another and what we're doing. So, Mr. Jones, if you want to speak on the book that you are going to bless the audience with on Tuesday, May 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you want to talk a little bit, give yourself your plug.
Sounds good. And look, for the people in the comments, I had a PB&J for lunch. Don't I wore my running shoes to pick up my son. Don't be trying to be like me out here. So next week I will be reading The Sweetest Change. It is our newest kids book. It is about a young girl named Michelle and her friends. They use entrepreneurship and smart money moves to help their underfunded school. So I will be reading that to the kids, and I hope they enjoy it and get some things that they can take back to their parents and say, Mommy, Daddy, what this about? And they can say, oh, let me Google that real quick, and then I get back to you, because it's all about the conversation between you and your parents. And then I also got Philip's Forgetful Fortune, similar story. It's about a boy named Philip and a boy named Jordan. Jordan teaches Phillips his super secret strategies for saving. They use that to buy bicycles in the summertime, and then they learn to decorate their teacher's classroom to supercharge their savings. So if you're looking for something to be collaborative with a young one of yours, a niece, nephew, cousin, child, granddaughter, grandson, if you're looking for a way to collaborate and communicate with them about the importance of financial literacy and taking control of your life, you can grab both of those. They are both on Amazon. If you just Google Akeem Jones and The Sweetest Change, or Akeem Jones, Philip's Forgetful Fortune, you can pick those up.
I'm going to defer to my press. My press just texted me, so she has questions.
Okay. Yes, we do. All right. There's some people who may be visual learners. So are there any resources where a visual person, you all may have anything to share? A PowerPoint, a video, something where they can tangibly see it?
I put in the chat, I know some of the things that we, for my firm, we do a monthly YouTube channel, as well as every 2 weeks, I send out like a virtual video that talks about, hey, this is what's going on in the economy. This is going on, with maybe various stocks things. People have been using the R word lately, recession, what that means to you. So it's a free mailing list. The information has all been approved by compliance. I will say it is information. I do not give generic advice, because I never want anyone to come back and say, I did this and then I wasn't in the best situation and I lost everything. Also, it's illegal. So I will put, Akeem's laughing, it's the truth. So I will once again put that, and if you want to shoot me your email, I'll get you added to that newsletter, and you can get that, and that's a free resource, and it has visuals, and also it has all these additional links for more information. So if you click on it, it's a highlighted word. If it talks about, let's say recession, and what are some of the trends or red and green flags, that's something that we have right now. You could click on it and get it. So I'll put my website once again in here. There's a link up there that says, hey, I'd like to sign up for the newsletter. You can do that, or you can shoot me your email address and I'll just add you when I'm at work tomorrow. Fellas, it's on you.
The only thing, I've been using mint.com for the last 10 years, and that was a visual, it's free. It's a visual representation, and I can track my net worth. You pretty much link your bank accounts, credit cards, mortgage, anything that you have online access to is very secure, and it pulls the data in and you just kind of categorize it. And you can literally set trends and set goals within the software. They have an app, so if you're out and about, you can kind of review your budget. It's very handy. Again, I've been using it for 10 years. It has worked for me. I've tried Quicken in the more complicated systems as well, but it's been the most consistent with helping me track my finances on a day-to-day basis to just make sure I'm not overspending. I also, like, within one of the programs that I offer, I do a financial roadmap. So I help you both, whether it's a business or individual, work on your budget and your plan, because most people don't. They just need help putting a structure to their budget, from how much money they bring in, what their expenses are, and then where they can trim fat. So if you need something like that as well, that's something that I can offer you. But yeah, other free resources. There's so many different ones. I get emails from Susie Orman, Tiffany Aliche, all the people who are in the financial industry. They send out, like, they have different membership groups and stuff. Again, it's information, but wisdom is the principal thing. You got to get an understanding by applying the knowledge. If you don't apply it, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Okay, so another question that we received was, someone has $1,000 that they're trying to spend, and they want to know what will reap benefits in 30 days. I would suggest donating to the Ronald L. Horn Scholarship, but I know you're thinking differently, but that's my plug.
And mine too, as a scholarship chair. Okay, but anyway, okay, proceed.
I think we gotta know way more about your circumstances, right? Personal finances gotta be personal. If you're in debt, then you might want to do something. There's so much about, we could give you an answer, but it would be a very general answer that wouldn't do you any good. So I would say you should. Quick money don't last long. That's a fact. I would say you should spend, I don't know how much people charge, but you should spend $50 to $100 at getting a consultation with a professional that's going to tell you how to use that money to the best of your ability, depending on your financial situation. That's what I say. Invest in a professional.
Okay. I don't see anyone else coming off mute, so I'm gonna move on to the next question. So what is the quickest way to start to get new streams of income?
All right, well, I'll start with that. Once again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I don't know if I can speak on behalf of my colleagues on the panel, but there's no popcorn answers. There's no instant, what's the quickest? And I think that's one of the things that have failed us as a community, is we're looking always for the get rich quick or the quickest way, or how can I hurry up and do it? When you look at successful people, you see that they worked for their wealth and they played the long game. It's just the facts. And if you want to debate it, I'm not there yet, but I'll bring my pops with his 35 years of clients who their kids will never want for anything, and they're going to be millionaires times over, and compare it to the one person who, hit on a stock one time and then probably squandered it and didn't do what they were supposed to do with their taxes. So, but I digress. But there's no quick way to get to anything. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is stop looking for a quick answer. Everything is going to require work. And most of us here understand also the time value of money, as well as the fact that there's so many factors that will, influence what you're going to do. So as it relates to an additional stream of income, one thing I would tell you is look into yourself and say, number one, why am I doing this? What is also, am I seeking another stream of income because it's something I'm passionate about, or it's something I'm solely focusing on profits? Because, for example, real estate is a hot ticket item where everyone thinks they want to do real estate, but they don't understand that, and to invest in real estate will also require an investment of your time. It's not easy being a landlord. If you don't believe me, ask the people who over the last 2 years could not evict people because they couldn't pay rent, but also everything was tied up because of the pandemic. So you need to be looking into yourself and say, is this a long-term business? Is someone have this business established where I could buy into it? As well as, is this a passion project and something I'm chasing? And are you really going to have this second stream of income as a business, or is it a hobby? Because oftentimes people treat entrepreneurship as a hobby when honestly it's a full-time job. So I would tell you to consider that first. And then really look into what do you have to dedicate to it, not only just your resources financially, but also your time. Because a lot of people seek multiple streams of income and they might associate that with an actual job, but there's also passive ways to have income, and that's through various investment mechanisms and some other things that are out there and available to you. But once again, it's going to vary on the person. So, that's my 2 cents. I will turn it over to my fellow colleagues on the panel and see if they have any, maybe they got an answer.
What I keep hearing is be faithful over another man's stuff, right? Like if you're at your job, you still in time, work where you're at right now, and then go to your boss and ask for an increase in your salary. Anytime that you got another job, negotiate your salary. Anytime you're going for your annual review, negotiate your salary. That's how you can make incremental jumps and increase your pay or increase your monthly revenue so that you can invest in or create that capital that you need to maybe invest or buy another house or whatever. But you have to start small. And I think sometimes we get so caught up on making quick money. But if it doesn't fit in your plan for the long run, then it's just a distraction. So again, I always tell people, close your eyes. What does, in 10 years, 20 years, what do you envision your house to look like? Where are you at? Are you on a vacation? Are you traveling? Are you have a family? And then smell it, taste it, touch it. What does it embody? And then, okay, if that's what you want, what are you willing to do every day to make sure you get there? And if that $1,000 that you have, it may be better for you to put it in your savings account because you don't know the next month your car gonna break down. You can't see into the future, but you can, as Danica said, you can tithe first, and God will rebuke all of those devourers that will come and try to eat away at your stuff. That's just a principle that works. I've been tithing for 10 years, and I've not wanted for anything. And it starts off a little rough, but the same week that I tithed and I had like $50 to my name, or probably $0, somebody brought my food like every day that week for lunch. So trust the process and trust God, and He'll always supply all of your needs. Like even when you're trying to go through this process to pay off debt. So even if you have more house right now or more expenses than you have actual revenue, trust Him and ask Him, where's the next well at? What's a resource that I can use? And stop just putting money out there, these pyramid schemes and these different marketing companies. Like, I get it. People want to make money, but don't be victim. Use discernment before you just invest your money into just random things, because everything is risky. But I'd rather put it in something that's not as risky, or that I can kind of control a little bit more when I'm trying to pay off debt and build a legacy, rather than just putting 5,000 here, 5,000 here, 5,000 here, 5,000 here. You got to be strategic about what you do with your money and not just make emotional decisions. That's good, calculated risk.
Thank you. So last question that we received was NFTs. Can you give a brief explanation? Are you investing, or I don't even know if it's investing. Are you purchasing? What are you doing? And I saw Akeem smile first.
So look, not an expert in NFTs at all. So NFTs is what it's called. It's a non-fungible token, and I like to look at it as it's a long stream of numbers that guarantees that nobody's going to unlock that stream of numbers. So for example, if you buy a pair of Jordans from StockX, right now StockX tells you if it's authentic or not. What NFT would allow you to do is you could attach an NFT to that pair of shoes. and that pretty much guarantees that that pair of shoes is authentic, right? So if you have five pair of Jordans, or one pair of Jordans, that's a one of one, right? And you want to make sure that it's authentic. That pair of Jordans would have a non-fungible token, which means it can't be changed, attached to it. I smile because I have a funny story about NFTs. I I saw an NFT for Super Bowl, whatever the Super Bowl was we just had. It was an NFT for a domain name for that Super Bowl. And I was like, I mean, I forgot how much. It was like $400. I was like, I mean, what could happen? It was like 2 months before the Super Bowl. I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this joint now. I'm gonna wait a couple months, like the day of the Super Bowl, this joint gonna be jumping. Let's just say I still got that NFT sitting in my NFT wallet, whatever it's called, right? It's still sitting there. It probably ain't worth no money. I ain't checked on it. I don't want to get my little feelings hurt. But yeah, I'm not an expert on NFTs or cryptos or any of that. So going back to the two previous questions, what would you do with $1,000, and what's a stream of passive income that we can get into today? I think my overall thought for all three of these questions combined is going to be it's going to be a long-term thing. We have a shirt that says hustle, save, invest, reinvest, and we put reinvest in there because you're not going to do anything one time, right? If you buy $1,000 in Apple share and it has a 5% dividend, that's $50 a year. You're gonna have to do a lot of $1,000 investments in there. If you want to look at NFTs, you're gonna have to buy one NFT, lose on it like I did, buy another one, do some more research, buy another one, do some more research, do some more research, do some more research. And then 8 years from now, when NFTs are commonplace and you've been losing for 8 years, people have been telling you crazy for 8 years, then you might hit the jackpot. Like Bitcoin was a thing, was coming into the scene 10 years ago, right? And people say, nah, Bitcoin ain't never gonna be nothing. These people crazy, you're gonna lose all your money. And they lost all their money several times, right? If you got a lot of money in Bitcoin right now, there's a crypto called Luna that just went to zero, right? If you're thinking about these like new innovative industries, there is a lot of risk in it. And you've got to be, one, comfortable with staying the long term, two, confident that you're going to do all the research. I always say research reduces risk. If you ask me, should I invest in real estate today, and you have no property, you've never looked at a home, you don't own a home, you don't know anybody in real estate, probably not, right? Because you're probably going to lose in real estate if you know nothing about it. So research reduces risk. So if we're talking about NFTs, if we're talking about crypto, stocks, bonds, real estate, business, anything like that, you've got to do the research to get comfortable with reducing that risk. And you got to put some money into it over the long term. I think long term is the key here. But I will double underscore that with saying I do not know anything about NFTs besides that one NFT that I bought and lost horribly on. I could have took my wife to dinner 4 times with that dang NFT I purchased.
Yeah, I think Akeem, I mean, honestly, I'm similarly in the same boat as you. A lot, and I put in the chat, timing is everything with some of these new concepts and things that are out there. And it's risky. I know a lot of people who lost a lot of money in crypto and Bitcoin. And then I know some people who did very well, but that's because they stayed on it and they kind of they had a really good background. One of them is a friend of mine who's a trader, and I mean, he literally watches it all day. This is what he does, and his thing was, he was kind of waiting on the enthusiasts, like let us all get in it. And then when he was like, okay, it got to the number of people, I'm selling and I'm getting out because I've now made my money that I need to make off of all these people who are jumping on the bandwagon. He was able to purchase his now wife a very nice engagement ring. So I'll put that out there, as well as they moved to another apartment in Brooklyn. So if you're in New York, you know what that was like. So he did very well, but also he didn't go back and get greedy. And, because I tell people, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. So you got to be mindful. I am going to put something in the chat. It's an article I actually came across today that I thought was kind of cool. And I don't know if either of you all want to talk about it or not, but I think it would be a good thing to read for people as it relates to I-bonds. It's not something that's often talked about, but one of the articles I read today was I-bonds variable rate will rise to 9.62% with the May reset. So we're in May now. So if you didn't purchase before April 30th, you didn't get that guarantee. And I only use guarantee when it's a true guarantee. The interesting thing about it is it's not something you can like purchase through a broker dealer. You literally have to go to, I think, treasury.gov. And the maximum I think you can even purchase is like $10,000 per social security number identity. So that person who has that $1,000, it's not a quick thing, but since we're having this conversation about inflation, it's an option and something to consider. So I'll post one of the articles in the chat, gives you something to go read on and think about, as well as it has a link to the Treasury website, but it's just an idea. So if you're looking for something that's more safe, but also could give you some level of guarantee, and I'm hoping this $1,000 is discretionary $1,000, not $1,000 that you have in your savings account. It's something to consider, especially if you're not really ready to get into the stock market right now. So.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, when you was talking about the stocks, I went and looked at mine and got a little depressed. But I'm still gonna hold on to them and we're gonna see what happens. But yes, thank you. Cindy, you want me to go ahead and wrap us up?
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you again to our panelists and my friends and social media friends. And I appreciate you all for joining us and really giving us a great lesson on so much information. You all were phenomenal. Someone did ask earlier about how do we get more of this information out to our people. I always say just share information. You never know who's looking at your pages. Share the info that you see that's reputable. I know Akeem, he does post like every day. Danica shares a lot of information on a lot of different things. Juan will tell you he did a session the other week that he is not that active on social media, but he's going to do better. I'm going to put that on out there. But there's a lot of great information out there. We have recorded tonight's event, so we will ask the office to post it on YouTube and we'll send it out along with a survey once it's up. So please take the survey. And then if you have any ideas for any programming that you would like to see, feel free to shoot us an email at odublackalumni@gmail.com. We're always looking to partner. So if you have a business or if you are great at whatever it is that you do and we can figure out how to make a program out of it, we would love to do so. And then again, Akeem will be reading his book next week on the 24th at 7. So feel free to register odualumni.org/BAC-READ22. So please get registered. I know I saw Desmond up here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but I thank him for reading his book on the 7th as well. We love our authors. They are doing great things for our children and really educating them. So thank you all again for coming out tonight or virtually. Thank you, Cindy, for moderating and hosting this event, for keeping up with the Joneses. So have a great evening, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Noelle, quick
Thank
question.